I'm sure you've seen people who have stickers of the Punisher skull on their truck. Heck, I'm sure you've been tailgated by a truck with this sticker on it. But if you haven't, or you just don't remember because you definitely have, here's a little something to jog your memory. Alright, y'all, so this is what the normal, or not these ones, but this is what the normal Punisher sticker would kind of look like something like that. Like, that is his symbol, but then we go over here, and wow, I was not expecting this when I looked up MAGA Punisher. Like, they put Trump hair on him and a Make America Great Again hat. And I can't. Like, bro. What is this? I'm sorry, I can't. And these stickers have a common theme of being on the backs of white conservative men's trucks. Because if you've ever met one of these people, they were almost certainly wearing a red Make America Great Again hat. But if you've watched the Punisher show like me, or even if you've read the comics, then you definitely have the same question that I do. Why do conservatives like the Punisher? Hey guys, I'm Taylor and welcome back to my channel. If you guys watched my last video, which was also my first ever video, and I'll leave that in the description, you may remember how I said this. And don't be afraid to comment down below. I will be looking through the comments. But then with a little stroke of luck, the comments were turned off. Comments were turned off. So I just wanted to say I'm sorry for that. And I turned the comments on for all my videos now, so I won't ever make that mistake again. So I think now is definitely the best time to say, don't be afraid to comment on my videos. I'll be checking and re-commenting on them much sooner than I did last time because that was a disaster that I will not recreate. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. And let's just get back to the Punisher. Now, in order to fully understand the appeal of this character, we first need to learn about this character. And just for context, as a disclaimer, we are only going to be using the comic and MCU canon version of the Punisher for this. Because yes, I know he has other like side movies and things like that that are outside the MCU, but I'm going to be honest with you, I hadn't heard of any of these before doing the research for this video, and I'm like a diehard Punisher fan, so that was kind of like, I just happened on these, and that was like, I was like, whoa, there's movies? So, and yeah, that, they are not popular enough to qualify, I don't think, in my opinion, so I'm not going to be using them, so I'm sorry about that, but we're just going to be using canon comics. Let's start with the MCU canon version, because believe it or not, the comics are actually pretty different from the MCU canon version, and I'm not really going to go awfully much into that in this video. Like, I will definitely do a small dive on it, but if you want to know more about like how they differ, definitely check out GodzillaMendoza's video. It's a really good video, and it's where I got a lot of my research, because I know I don't read the comics, so definitely go check out his video if you want to learn more about that. I'll leave it in the description. The MCU canon Punisher's name is Frank Castle, played by Jon Bernthal. And let me just say, Jon Bernthal's performance as the Punisher is incredible. He did an absolutely fantastic job, and I just love it so much. Now, the story of the MCU Punisher is, it's a lot, especially in the show. There's a lot happening. There's like this whole, you get Daredevil season 2, where he's hunting down people who killed his family, and then apparently it was all hoax or like a cover-up in season 1, which got really confusing. In season 2, it didn't even really have to do with that. He just kind of got sucked in to this kind of side plot, which it's just a lot. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to be going over the main things about the Punisher, the MCU version. So he is a veteran for the Marines turned vigilante after the murder of his family. He spends the entirety of Daredevil and his show, well, not his show, the second season he didn't, but the entirety of Daredevil, first season of his show, getting revenge for his family. He's supposed to represent the failure of the legal system because during his time in the military, he saw some things that he wasn't supposed to and that weren't legal. So his family and him were executed because he ended up seeing that. And by some like twist of fate, he ended up surviving. But the legal system, it never helped him, and it never got justice for him or put away the person who did that to his family. So he's supposed to represent how the legal system failed him, and basically he just took matters into his own hands. And along the way, he deals with the trauma of being in the military and the loss of his family. And in the show, he has like this internal conflict about killing people almost. He justifies most of his actions as avenging his family, which his actions are to avenge his family, but that doesn't necessarily make them justified. But in the end, the only thing that bothered me with this show is that the MCU Punisher is framed as a hero and not an anti-hero, which he's supposed to be an anti-hero. Like in the comics, he is this brutal anti-hero who like is way more morally gray than he is in the show. And yes, he's definitely morally gray in the show, but we see less of the character being in the middle of good and bad, and we see him more leaning towards good. Like, take this second season of The Punisher, for example. So he got caught up in all this stuff and things, and everything he does that is like awful, it's justified by him trying to protect a girl named Amy who has some like confidential photos about something that some like this organization, these like fundamental Christians don't want to get leaked. So he is justified as protecting Amy, which it's definitely different from the comics. I will get into that later. But it's the only thing that I kind of like didn't like as much. But I think that this was meant to like he was meant to be the most appealing to a large audience, like the most amount of people, because I feel like that Hollywood thinks that's always what we want, to see these amazing, perfect heroes that are just like almost flawless in every way. But I think that letting a story with a less perfect hero like seep in, like things like the Punisher or Venom or Deadpool, like characters that blur the lines between good and bad instead of leaning towards the side of good, I think that audiences would definitely really enjoy something like that. But that's just my opinion. If y'all think something different, drop it in the comments below. Again, all the stuff in the comments, I'll be reading them, re-commenting, and I just really want to hear what you guys think about this. So let's move on to the comic version, specifically how it differs. Frank Castle has pretty much the same backstory. He's a traumatized war vet who lost his family tragically, which leads him to become a vigilante. But the thing that makes him different in the comics compared to the show is that his motivations aren't entirely based on the death of his family. Like in the comics, he would like wage war on random criminal enterprises because he feels like his best self when he's like fighting and murdering people. And of course, GodzillaMendoza goes into this a little more in his video, into like the specifics. But like the main thing is here that in the comics, his actions are not solely based on the death of his family. Instead, he uses other more flimsy reasons to justify his actions to himself. Like he doesn't give a damn what almost anyone else says or thinks about him. As long as he can think up a reason that this person needs to die, he will pull the trigger without hesitation. And that is what truly sets him apart from the show and what makes the comic book version an anti-hero. And it's that he does things that could really be debated on whether they are morally right or wrong, instead of leaning more towards the side of morally right, which you could argue that the show kind of does the same thing, but they always give us hints that he is the hero and not the anti-hero, that what he's doing is the right thing. It puts in details that makes the audience think that's a good reason to do what he's doing, compared to the comics where his logic is a little more out of touch. The comics, however, tackle similar themes as the show. Themes of trauma and flawed justice system, and one that I forgot to mention was the aftermath of people going to war and being in the military, with other themes that these themes could be considered as woke, technically. Now, I know I used the definition in my last video. The urban slang definition it's important because I feel like the term woke is so loosely thrown around that I feel like to really find out if this is woke, we need to compare to the definition. So yeah, I know this is going to be a little repetitive if you did watch my last video, but I feel like using this definition is important to see if these themes are woke. So the definition of woke in urban slang means being aware of and actively attentive to important societal issues, particularly those related to social and racial injustices. So using the definition, let's look at some of the themes in The Punisher and see if they are woke. The first one is the failed legal system. This is probably the most prominent theme in the whole show, and I'd say that it's definitely considered an important societal issue that this show is very attentive to. And this show the theme is literally a social injustice. Like, this is the definition of a prominent social injustice that affects a lot of people. And with all of that in mind, I think it's safe to say that this is a woke issue because of how almost nuanced the failure of the justice system is, because now we have the technology to prove that some people may be innocent and some people may not be. And so it has really come up, and it's really more prominent now more than ever. But so yeah, I'd say that one is definitely a woke issue. But let's look at another one. Mental health and trauma. This in recent years has become one of the most important societal issues. And it's an issue that, like, all people can care about. In my opinion, this should 100% be a bipartisan issue. And even, like, all of the themes in this, I could consider bipartisan issues, but gosh darn that pesky definition, all of these cute little themes have to be woke. So this is a societal issue that people are very attentive to, which is the urban slang definition of woke. But I think because conservatives do, whenever they see the label woke, or whenever something is a social issue that is being attended to, or it's more modern or nuanced, I feel like we are all separating each other, like, but by political party, like, in both political parties, in both, like, conservative and liberal, we're splitting on issues that could 100% should be bipartisan, but they're not, because we are separating ourselves into these two different groups, these two different opinions. So it just makes it harder for definitely for film companies to please everyone with themes. And it's not like they're not going to have theme at all, because that would just be ridiculous. That's like art in general, that should have themes. That should be teaching people about complex issues, as I talked about in my last video. But we just keep separating, like, liberal from conservative so much that people will hate on anything that shouldn't be hated on by anyone. But that's just my 2 cents. So, yeah, and I could go on this entire video, like, I could have, like, an hour-long video essay explaining how each theme in The Punisher is somehow woke by definition, but I think you get the point. This character is definitely woke by definition, and even loosely, like, the themes that he deals with, even loosely could be considered woke, because he just handles so many topics that are found on the left, that are separated to the left. Things like mental health and veterans' rights and so many other things that should be bipartisan, but they're not. So, that's cool. Haven't really answered my own question, I've just kind of made it more confusing. But I think in order to really understand these MAGA Punisher lovers, we need to get their POVs. Like, what do they think about this character? So I have had the pleasure of looking through some of these conservatives talk about the Punisher, and I have 2 clips. So I'll play them and then break it down. So the first one is this guy. I don't want to put in the YouTube channel name. I'm sure because he's got his stuff all over the screen, you recognize him, but I don't want to advertise the channel or anything like that, because that's just not something that I would advertise based on my personal views. So that's just me. But it's this guy who's talking about the comic rebrand of it. And I know that these videos, they're from a couple of years ago, so they're a bit old. But I still think that they are valid and that they perfectly show conservative opinion on this character. And I don't think that opinion has necessarily changed throughout the years. So, here's the clip.
Logo. Let's look at this. This is it. It is some sort of devil skull, something like that. And obviously, he no longer has any guns. He's got swords at his side. Now, they've tried to do this before, little knives and swords. They try to get him away from the weapons thing. It didn't work because guess what? People like this character for a certain reason, right? They like him because he is a vigilante. They like him because he takes justice into his own hands. They like him because he uses awesome, badass guns. They like him for a variety of those reasons.
Okay, so what I've gathered from this is that one reason that they like him is because of his weapons and his excessive gun use, which I can understand this. I mean, I know conservatives like their guns. It's kind of their thing at this point, which even with the multiple assassination attempts on their beloved Donald Trump, because the president of the United States was almost assassinated multiple times. But no, we don't need gun control laws. Let's just wait till they kill him. Yeah, I don't know about you, but that's just wild. That is just wild thinking about that. But we're not here to talk about Donald Trump. We are here to talk about the Punisher. So here's the next clip.
After season 2, it really doesn't even matter if it's good or not. They're canceling everything, Marvel, Netflix, for the new Disney streaming service. And my question is, how does something like The Punisher, which is straight up badass, straight up violence, straight up everything that Disney doesn't want to have on their streaming service, I don't know how something like that and something like Daredevil ties into the Disney streaming service.
Yes, because we all know how much you love your violence. No, but like, in all seriousness, I don't think violence is a very bad thing. I think it can be like one of those guilty pleasures or something you get a kick out of once in a while, because it's normal with all of the everything out there for us to like happen upon violence and be like, huh, this is kind of fun to watch. So as long as it is in healthy amounts and it doesn't like consume you or cause you to commit acts of violence yourself, then I think violence is perfectly fine. And I watched this guy in my last video on the Piers Morgan show. He was in the thumbnail, and I swear to God, some of the shit this guy says, it just makes me so egregiously mad. Like, it's not even funny. But I think the fact that the second thing he thought of when it comes to the Punisher is the violence, like first is badass, then violence, it says something. It definitely says something. And then we look back at the other clip. Guns, violence, that's all the stuff that conservatives seem to like. That's what they seem to be into when it comes to the Punisher. But I think that is just such a fixed way to view the character. Because you're only focusing on what you want to focus on. This edgy, cool, cis, white, straight guy who goes around shooting up people. But that really isn't the whole character. That's just a singular view of him. I bet you that if they had originally created the character as gay or black or a woman or not a straight, white, cisgender man, then they'd have a completely different perspective on the character. Because those kinds of minor details are completely insignificant to the story. They would not change the story or much anything about the character at all. But it would probably have the most prominent effect on the conservative audience, even though it has absolutely no effect on the character, which is mind-boggling if you think about it. They have this view on the character, that he's this awesome white guy who goes around killing whoever he wants, that they don't really get the time to know the character for all he really is and that all he really represents and stands for. So, I'll leave you with this, conservatives. Watch the show again, or read the comics, and maybe take your eyes off the guns for one teensy moment, and you'll find that Frank Castle might not be all you thought he was. also, I kind of find it ironic that the same guy, the guy in the second video, who was like who was bashing Superman about how he cried in the Superman movie, said he loved Punisher season 1, even though in Punisher season 1, Punisher had a way more dramatic crying scene than the one in the Superman movie, which just, oh my god, it just makes every word that comes out of this guy's mouth more painful and hypocritical. I just that's just embarrassing, bro. And like, not to hate on you, but that's just embarrassing at this point. Anyways, don't be afraid to leave your comments below. As I've said many times before, I'll read them, read comments, and I'm always willing to have a conversation with anyone. I'll have a fight with anyone, and also have a nice friendly conversation with anyone. So I'll definitely be checking those way sooner than last time. And also, if you haven't seen it, go check out the Punisher series. It is really, really good. And yeah, there's a lot of violence, and that might not be your cup of tea, but the story really got to me. And I think that it's worth showing some love, especially since we're going to see him again in his special feature and in Spider-Man Brand New Day. So go show that series some love, nostalgia and stuff. I just absolutely love it. It's the most perfect show ever. So, even though it's like super duper complicated. And Daredevil season 2, ooh, best performance ever by John Bernthal as the Punisher. Best performance ever. Like, I swear. As a diehard Punisher fan, I love everything about the Punisher show, and I am dying with excitement for Brand New Day and his special feature. So I just cannot wait for that, and you can totally expect a video the moment those things drop. So, yes. Okay, bye guys!